Before the printing press, ideas were disseminated through oral traditions and script, though script was limited to the literate. After the advent of Christianity, most texts were religious. Copies were made by church scribes, and all belonged to the church. There was no idea of individual ownership. It took the rise of universities for secular texts to be revitalized. In 1468, Gutenberg revealed his printing press and changed the world. Now printing fell into two categories, religious or classical, and there was lots of copying. The 16th century introduced a new demand for cheaper books. It was common practice that once a book was printed, another printer would buy it and copy it, and then sell their copies. Printers didn't ask authors permission to print, and so it often happened without the author's knowledge. Writers got their money from the manuscript, not from the book being printed, as the money that was raised that way went directly to the printers. Writers were considered equal to bookbinders and printers, just one step in the process of making a book. In 1660, printers demanded a law that applied to the printed word, not the printing. This demand was fulfilled in the 1709 Treaty of Anne, which introduced the first actual copyright laws, including the right to print a particular work, not just the whole exercise of printing, granted printers rights to their books for 14 years, did not restrict public libraries. Changing public opinion meant that people now thought of the author as being responsible for the text. An author still had moral right over the text, although this was restricted to their life term. Originally copyrights determined by local government, but national copyright laws came about in the 18th century. In the 19th century, various nation-states agreed to share their copyrights, so a work published in England couldn't be legally pirated in Canada. The Berne Convention in 1886 was the first move to establish an international copyright. In 1930, there were raids in New York City on people selling bootleg songs, looking for someone buying copyrighted songs, reprinting them, and selling them for 5 cents each. In New York, it was a misdemeanor to sell a copyrighted song without the permission of its owner. The New York Times noted on its issue of January 5, 1939, "On any afternoon or evening, if the magistrate sitting in West Side Court is known to be lenient, the area north of 42nd Street is a beehive for the street sale of song sheets, watches, razor blades, French pictures, flowers." End quote. The Universal Copyright Convention was adopted in Geneva in 1952. The trade-related international property rights were established in 1995, and the World Intellectual Property Organization was established in 2002. Now copyright applies to all forms of media and continues until 50 years after the artist's death. There's always a struggle between those who make the media and those who don't want to pay for that or want to use it in accordance with the law. Usually the people who want control lose this argument. 14% of internet users download digitized music files from the internet for free. It costs money to make a movie, so pirates are always ahead of producers that way. As technology gets better, it's easier for people to share pirated files without considerable quality loss. Newspapers refer to new laws being passed as if each is a turning point in the crusade against piracy. Claims that these actions deter online piracy are easily debunked. Corporations will randomly punish pirates to serve as a deterrent for others. However, this action can be considered them just flexing their legal muscles. As world media concentrates into fewer hands, those hands act to ensure their monopoly over the media. When the owners of the product are fighting big businesses, the language is more civil. When they're fighting individuals that use terms like pirate and bootlegging, even though the issue is similar. The effect of online sharing technologies on music sales is inconclusive and is largely based on anecdotal journalistic evidence. Just shutting down sharing services now will probably have little effect. Quote, "The genie is already out of the bottle." Piracy is a supply and demand system. Many believe that if you can't cut the supply, you should try and cut the demand. Usually this proceeds by making pirating things illegal. 74% of pirates under the age of 25 and 69% of those over 25 said they would be, quote, "less likely to engage in piracy if they were concerned that piracy was tied to criminal activities and terrorism." This works better in the UK and US because piracy is money-driven and people fear terrorists more. Some suggestions of ways to kill piracy include educate embassies on how to deal with pirates internationally, talk about it in international business gatherings, high-publicity government campaigns, increase communication between sectors that track terrorist activity and those that track counterfeiting/pirating activity. Expand organized crime statutes to cover piracy. Give investigators more power of surveillance. Establish protocols for investigations and train people to them. Process cases efficiently. Enhance international cooperation. fight serious cases in organized crime/money laundering court, as opposed to general prosecution, make movies piracy a priority offense in anti-gang strategies. These methods may contribute to slowing down piracy in the end.